Welcome to another Rosie, Posie Pondering. Today I am talking about our pasts and how we can change them and what we can do to be happier in general in our lives. It's hard for us as women to push pause. We don't have time for that. We have to keep going all the time. And taking care of ourselves doesn't always happen like we want it to. We don't have the time away and we don't have the ability to do that on a regular basis. So being able to focus a certain way in our lives and push the pause mentally, even though we can't physically stop and take time out, we can pause our mental situation and reset everything. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is how to reset your mental mindset and give yourself that ability to, I guess, refresh your soul without having to spend a lot of time doing that, because you just don't have the time available to you. The first thing I want to look at is James 1:2-12. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not the man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation, but the rich in his humiliation, because as a flower of the field he will pass away. For no sooner has the sun risen with that burning heat that it withers the grass, the flower falls, and its beautiful appearance perishes. So the rich man also will fade away in his pursuits. Blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those who love him." We look at these verses often, but a lot of times we sigh and we think we should be happy. But it's just hard to smile and put on our smile on our face and move on with our lives and not get mired down in the struggle. Sometimes it's just so overwhelming. One thing after another fall on top of us and weigh us down until we are pushed down in the mud waist high. We can't get through one life battle before we get another life battle. How we see our life is completely up to us. Abraham Lincoln said, "Most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." There are two important things that we always need to remember. One is that God is always in control, and he's going to take care of us. And two is that while we may not have control over our environment or our circumstances, we have complete control over how we respond to those trials and those problems that arise. This passage, the one I'm going to read next, talks about the man building bigger barns and his life is done away with. He's made all these plans and he doesn't realize that he's going to die. And then it goes on to the next part in Luke 12:24-34. "The life is more than meat, and the body more than raiment. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouse or barn, and God feedeth them. How much more are ye better than these fowls? And which of you, taking thought, can add to his stature 1 cubit? If ye then not be able to do that thing which is least, why take thought for the rest? Consider the lilies, and how they grow. They toil not, and they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like these. If then God so clothe the grass, which is to this day in the field, and in the morrow is cast in the oven, how much more will he clothe ye, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye that ye shall eat, and what ye shall drink, neither be of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell what ye have, give alms, provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, and no moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." It finishes up by talking about being ready when Christ comes. The middle is what I want to talk about. In our world full of plenty, we sometimes look around at others and we want their life. We're dissatisfied with what we have. We might have a bucket list of all the things that we want to do in our life. And we have a list of accomplishments that we want to accomplish. Things that we aspire to do. Physical or monetary pleasures on this earth that we wish to achieve. We start out life with very high expectations of the things that we're going to achieve. The college that we'll go to, the job we're going to have, the money that we're going to make, the car that we're going to drive. And we lose sight of the true goal. God says not to worry about all this extra. He reminds us that it will all get old, it will fail, and it will be corrupted. None of our possessions will be with us more than this life. And we should look to the next life. God supplies our needs. That might not be what we want, but He will take care of us. It's important enough that He said it more than once. In Matthew 6:26, He says, "Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather in barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they?" We don't need to doubt God taking care of us. Think of how Lot's daughters took matters into their own hands when the city was burned. They thought that it might be the whole world. It might not just be them. Everything may be burned up. And so they decided that they would make sure life kept going on. And so they got impregnated by their father. And then think about who their children became. They became the Moabites and the Ammonites. They were a constant problem for the Israelites all throughout history. There was a difference. There's a difference in not sitting back and just twiddling our thumbs and saying, "Oh, God's got this. I don't have to do anything," and taking matters into our own hands. There's an in-between there. And the daughters of Lot, if they had trusted God and waited, they would have seen that everything was okay. Just because the city they lived in was burned up didn't mean the whole world was burned up. And Abraham was there waiting. He would have accepted them with open arms and ready for their family he would have helped them get started again and all that. They didn't realize that. They didn't realize that they were still safe and God was still taking care of them. We have to trust God even through those moments when we think it's all over and we're in despair. We have to remember God's there. He's not left us. He's still there and He has His reasons. In Matthew 6:11, it is pretty profound to me that Jesus asked God to give us our daily bread. Take life one day at a time. When I take a step back and I look at weeks at a time, and I look at all the things that I have to do in the weeks to come, and I look at all of life and all the troubles that we're facing, financial, physical, whatever it may be, I look at all those things, I can feel really overwhelmed. It's enough to give you a panic attack some days. So when I think about those things, I need to remember daily bread, one day at a time. Take it one step at a time. God will provide every single day if we will allow Him. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't make plans. You can plan for your future, but always keep in the back of your mind daily. Keep it on a daily level. And don't go too far out with the troubles of this life, or it can be overwhelming. My favorite verse is Mark 9:24. Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe. Help me in my unbelief." We want to believe, but it's hard sometimes when the going gets rough and we struggle. And we need to keep working at it. And every time we grab our trouble or our worry back from God, we need to keep returning it to Him. He'll still be there waiting. And every time we return it back to Him, we can let Him keep it longer and longer. And then eventually we can give it to Him wholly and not take it back. We have to learn to trust Him. Faith is like a muscle. If we use that muscle and we work it, it tears it. That seems like that would hurt it and be the opposite of what you want. But as you tear it and you use it and you work it, it becomes stronger. Our faith through trials and tribulations will become stronger until we can endure and not be disheartened, and not only lift ourselves up, but then be strong enough to lift others up as well. But if we let our faith grow weak, we don't use that muscle, it wastes away and it gets smaller, and we won't be able to use it and see all the good that God has for our lives and all the things that He's doing for us. I had a flat tire the other day. I had driven Jake's car because he has air conditioning in his car and I don't in mine, and he was home because he was sick he'd gone to the doctor, and so since he was home, I took his car. Well, halfway to work, I got a flat tire. I would have been upset by this if back in the past, before I learned to take one step at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. Sometimes just that very moment you're in, you can only take that one little moment. I would have been upset. I was going to be late to work. How much would this tire cost to fix? How is this going to affect us? Now Jake is sick and he has to get out and come and help me. And I know now to look at things and realize, okay, there's a reason for this. Okay, God did this for some reason. I may not know what it is. Maybe there was going to be a wreck, and if I hadn't stopped and gotten a flat tire, I would have been in that wreck. Maybe God had Jake be sick for this purpose, so that I would have the car with air conditioning that also had the warranty on the tire, so that it wouldn't cost us money to get the tire fixed. I never know exactly what God's thinking or how He's working things, but I know that He has a reason. So that helps me through those hard times and those trials to be happy in spite of it, because I know there's a reason for it. I may not know it now. I may not ever understand it in this lifetime, but I know there's a reason for it, and it helps me through those times. And that's one reason why we can be happy in those trials and those tribulations. Here's another story for you, and this one's kind of fun. A daughter was complaining about her life to her father, that her life was miserable. She didn't know how she was going to make it. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It seemed just as one problem was solved, another one arose. Her father, a chef, went into the kitchen. He filled 3 pots with water and placed each on high fire on the stove. Once the 3 pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in one, eggs in the second, and ground coffee in the third pot. He then let them sit and boil without saying a word to his daughter. She moaned and impatiently waited, wondering what in the world was he doing. After 20 minutes, he turned off the burners, took the potatoes out of the pot, placed them in a bowl, took the eggs out and placed them in a bowl, took the coffee, ladled the coffee out and put it in a cup. Turning to her, he asked, "What do you see?" "Potatoes, eggs, and coffee," she hastily replied. "Look closer," he said. "Touch the potatoes." So she did, and noted that they were soft. And he then asked her to take a look at the egg and break it. And after pulling off the shell, she looked at the hard-boiled egg inside, and finally asked her to sip the coffee. The rich aroma brought a smile to her face. "What does this mean?" she asked. And then he explained the potatoes and the eggs and the coffee beans each had faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, they reacted differently. Each did something different. The potato went in strong and hard, unrelenting, into the boiling water. But through time and trials and suffering, it became weak and soft. The egg was fragile. It went in with a thin outer shell, and it protected that liquid interior until it put it in the boiling water, and then the inside of the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee, they were unique. After being exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something new. "Which are you?" he asked his daughter. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you the potato, the egg, or the coffee bean?" Now, how we react to our trials is how others perceive us. We need to face those trials in order to become what we're supposed to be. But it's up to us to actually choose what we will be. We can take the easy way. We can close ourselves off from the world, keep our hurt inside, and put up a wall, a shell around us. We can be hard on the inside like a hard-boiled egg and have that wall up where nobody can get to us. We can let the world prey on us and take advantage of us, and we eventually can get beaten down to the point where we're soft and weak like the potato. Or we can be happy in spite of our circumstances and radiate that inner peace and faith that overcomes us whenever we act like the coffee bean. Because we can be that person in times of struggle where we change our environment and we make it a good place, even if it's a struggle. We can be that happy person. We can actually change our past. It doesn't seem possible, but it's true. Bob Proctor's book, ABCs of Success, has a section of the book devoted to this subject. Where we have been, where we are now, and where we are going. These are 3 important phases in everyone's life. You can mentally mix exciting experience from your past and present that will prepare you to develop an interesting vision of your future. Or, if you're not mentally alert, you could very easily reverse your past, and that would cause you to see only the negative circumstances that exist in the present. This sort of mental activity would automatically develop a negative attitude and prevent any productive planning in your future. Our past experiences and our present circumstances have absolutely no power other than that which we choose to give them. As each of us visits where we have been many times each day, get into a habit of giving your mental energy to your past accomplishments, your successes, the experiences that brought great joy in your life. You would only then see all the opportunities that surround you. positive circumstances will pop up one after another. Where you are now suddenly becomes very exciting. Mentally mix that part with the present, and you will have difficulty containing yourself with a dynamic vision of your future. Where you have been, and where you are now, and where you are going. 3 important phases. Make your mental mix a winning combination. Many of the successful people I know keep a win list, a record of their accomplishments. They carry it with them and read it periodically. You might try this. Then, when you look back, you will be certain of holding a beautiful picture. You're always free to change your mind and choose a different future or a different past. Life is divided into 3 terms: that which was, that which is, and that which will be. Let us learn from the past to profit by the present, and from the present, live a better future. Look at Rahab, look at Abigail, look at Esther, look at Ruth. There are so many other examples. These women could have sat back and done nothing. They could have been martyrs, but instead they decided to change their world. They did something. They made an effort. Rahab could have looked at her life as a harlot and thought she wasn't worth saving. She could have let her past bring her down, but instead she took action. And she is in the ancestry of Christ. She didn't let her past stop her from creating a new future. Abigail had a husband who was obviously a hard man and possibly abusive. He must have been difficult to live with. Did Abigail let him beat her down and keep her from taking action and saving her household and the lives of those that depended on her? She was brave. And David not only spared her life and her family's life, her household's life, but also went on to marry her and become her protector. Esther could have been afraid because she was a Jew, and she could have shrunk from her task. She did the impossible with a king who was known for killing women that displeased him. Can you imagine how terrifying that would have been? She did not let the past actions of the king scare her future. She could have seen what he had done to those women in the past and gone, I'm not doing that. She didn't do it. Instead, she said, okay, this might be the reason I'm here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for my people, no matter what happens. Ruth left the land she knew, went with her mother-in-law to a country she wasn't used to, and a culture she didn't know. She could have let her sorrow overtake her. She could have mourned her husband and her lack of children and wasted away, but she didn't. She took up her daily tasks and did what needed to be done day after day. We could be a Naomi. In Ruth 1:20, we read of Naomi's reaction to her past. And she said unto them, call me not Naomi, but Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. And in verse 21, she says, I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? She's blaming it all on God. We could be a Naomi. We could blame God for all of our troubles. We could say, oh, God's not doing anything right for me. He's not helping me. It's awful. I've been afflicted. I've lost my husband. I lost my sons. I've had to go home. I've lost everything. I've come back empty. Or we could say, this all happened. I don't understand it yet, but there's a purpose. And God will turn it to good for me if I will let Him. I just need to wait and see. So, she's pretty sour. She's probably a really hard person to live with. You got to think. Ruth came home every day to her after working in the fields every day, trying to get enough grain for them to eat every single day. Came home to Naomi, bitter. She blamed God for her hard times. Naomi's reactions and her whole attitude changed whenever she realized that they had a protector, that they had someone new that would take care of them. And sometimes we need to be the person that just says encouraging words or gives a hug to somebody that's having troubles. Sometimes it can take 1 or 2 actions on our part to pull somebody out of bitterness that so easily consumes us. We can look at our daily life and be overwhelmed by the ugliness of little imperfections. Or we can wonder in the smallest blessings. There's a book called 1,000 Gifts by Anne Voskamp. In this book, she writes how their pig farm's failing. She's discouraged by life. They're going under, and she decides to make a list of 1,000 things that she's thankful for. She starts taking pictures of the things as she goes. It starts out simple, simple things like your family, food, clothes, house. And if you ever try giving an extensive list of the things you're thankful for, you quickly run out of these basic things. So she starts thanking God for pink noses and cheeks on her children, for the way the cheese curls when she grates it, for the cracked plate and the pretty line it makes across the plate. She even finds beauty in the ugliness when her son gets a hurt finger and has to have stitches because his finger didn't cut off. Even in the ugliness, she sees the beauty. In hardships, in losses, in the flaws